Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome to lesson 4 of the MyListing 101 course. In today's lesson, we're going to look at all things typography. And on my screen, we have the agenda for today. First up is previous lesson recap. So in the previous lesson, we looked at global colors and defining our color scheme. Everything we're doing currently is building up to getting that coming soon mode set up, right? So when you set up a coming soon mode, you're probably going to come across situations where you need just a little bit of artwork, including your logo, favicon to show in the browser tab, a bit of typography, colors, obviously, and things of that nature. So that's what we're building up to is getting that coming soon page built. Now, obviously, in a real world situation, you would just work through the MyListing project template or on your own much faster than this, right? You would just jump in there and do all of this stuff and knock it down all in one swoop. You wouldn't go through all of these stages lesson by lesson, so to speak. And then, 5 days later, the coming soon page goes up. You would just knock it all down at once. But what we're doing here is breaking down these lessons individually and building up to that coming soon page. So I want to cover all the things that would possibly be on that coming soon page and enabling that. Okay, that's what I'm trying to capture here. Okay, so again, today is typography. We did the lesson recap, previous lesson recap. And so as part of the typography, we're going to just look at how MyListing approaches it, fixing one of the issues with MyListing's typography as far as accessibility goes, which is a really important piece, and how we set the typography, how we set it in Elementor site settings and with global fonts and things of that nature. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. I'm going to go ahead and close the agenda, remove myself here. And so we have the project template pulled up, and I have not touched anything. We're just going through this as we would in a regular client project or a project of my own. We see here that in the in progress column, we have Elementor site settings. And if we scroll down, we see that the subtasks are left to do. We in the previous lesson, we took care of the global colors. So I marked that complete. So now we have to worry about global fonts and our typography. Okay, so we are in the typography task card now for this. Typography promotes legibility and helps communicate a website's messaging, tone, and sentiment. People are drawn to clean, easy on the eye, and visually attractive typography. However, website owners should only use a couple of fonts, font weights, etc., as this can harm a website's design and performance. What this means is, I see it all the time. I'll see website owners go in and they will have like 15 different fonts. Every Elementor widget has a different font associated with it. The weights are different. The font weights are different. The sizing's inconsistent. It's just all over the map. And trying to wrangle that for manageability and scalability is damn near impossible. So that's the kind of things that we want to prevent and do things globally in a consistent, manageable, scalable fashion. Look hard at system fonts before adding any Google fonts, custom fonts, etc. If system fonts are not a fit for your project, choose up to 3 fonts that complement each other while allowing you to differentiate your headings, H1s through H6s, and the body text. When looking for fonts to pair with each other, I recommend FontJoy. So that's a free website. We'll go ahead and just view that. I haven't viewed this in a bit, but you can punch in here on your left-hand side. You can see we've got Montserrat selected and Laura selected, and then another third one here. And you can just see how these 3 pair together. You can adjust the sliding to do different things. You can, let's see what we can do. We set light and dark mode here. Adjust the different fonts or choose your different font families. You can do just like randomize just to get some ideas. Click that generate button, just get some random ideas and that sort of thing. So FontJoy is really, really, really cool. All right. So that's that. Again, free tool. I'm gonna get into type scale in a second. I want to circle back really quick to the system fonts. There is a link to a guide right here for that. And system fonts are what we are using with what I use for the Canvas starter site. So that is going to be the most performant font you can have. And I think it looks just fine personally, but totally understandable if you want to get in there and adjust the fonts to your liking. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the actual Canvas, the live Canvas site. You can see what I mean. So this is system fonts, and I think it looks great. And it, like I said, it's the most performant font there is. You just decide if it fits your brand, your particular website you're launching, and go from there. Okay, but totally no harm in adding your own fonts. You just, like I said, be responsible in how you do it. As far as performance, accessibility, manageability, scalability, all of those things. Don't just go in there willy-nilly assigning fonts to anything and everything with no plan in place. All right. So the last tool here I want to bring up is Typescale, another free tool. One of my favorite tools, period, in building websites. So Canvas uses the perfect third. If you're not familiar with music, that is where this kind of concept comes into play with the scales. So if we click on this scale drop down, those in the music world will know that this is related to music. The different levels of scale in music. All right. So Canvas uses major third here. So when you click on major third, we see here also that the base body size is 16 pixels. That's going to come into play here in a second because of an issue with MyListing that they need to fix. They should have fixed months ago. Should have stopped what they're doing and fix it, in my opinion, which we'll look at, like I said, here in a second. But when you choose the particular scale you want, the higher you go down in the scale, the further you go down in the drop down, I should say, and the higher you go up in the scale, the bigger the font scaling is going to be. So again, I chose major third for this particular site, and then it gives you all of the values here that you want to use for your H1s, small text, body, and that sort of thing. Obviously, the paragraph size is going to be one rem. If you've watched any of my other videos on typography, we should not be using pixels anymore. We should be using rem values. One rem in this case, as we see here for the paragraph text, equals the body size, the base size, body size in this case, which is 16 pixels. Okay, that should be the minimum size that the main majority of your body text is. Don't go any smaller than 16 pixels for the the majority. Now there's areas of a MyListing website that have really small fonts, and that's okay in some cases because it's not a ton of text to read, but you still have to be cognizant of people with disabilities and being cognizant of the things what they can and can't see very well, okay, or at all. But yeah, so that's a quick overview of this awesome tool. So they give you, Typescale gives you exactly what you need to punch in. And let me show you what I mean by that. So if I go to pages and we pull up the home page with Elementor, and we open the, click on this little hamburger icon in the top left to bring up our site settings, and we go to site settings. And then you're going to be tempted right away. When I first started with Elementor, I made the same mistakes way back in the day. You're going to be tempted to go right over to typography. Okay, don't do that. That's not where we're going to go there eventually, but that's not where you set the majority of the fonts, because the typography. Because in here, you might have an H1 font that is super, super small. Like, let's say, as far as headings go, let's say it's 20 pixels, right? You don't want to dictate all of your H1s being 20 pixels, which in this case would be 1 point something, rem, because we want to use rem, right? But yeah, you don't want to dictate these right here, the H1s through H6s, you don't want to set that here because those could fluctuate. That's why you want to use global fonts, which we're gonna get into here in a second. All right, so let me pull up the Canvas starter site in my other screen here, just so we can get the exact values that I used. So I'm just logging in over there. If you just give me a second, should have logged in before the video, but here we are. All right, so I'm just pulling up a page over in Canvas, bringing up the site settings just as we have here. And I'm now in the typography area, just like we are here. And before I start configuring anything, let me go back here to our project template and see if there's anything I need to mention in here. So we're done with typography, that particular task card. Like I said, we're still on the Elementor site settings, and we are in the typography area. So I could actually flip-flop these around if I wanted. Global fonts and typography. I just listed it in the order that it's displayed in the Elementor site settings. So if we see here, I just displayed them in order. So global fonts appears at the top and then typography. So that's why I did that. Okay, so anyway, typography. The only settings I touch in this area are the body font size. To address the accessibility issues with my listing's base font size, okay, that's one thing. And the other thing I address is link color, okay? Global fonts are gonna handle the rest of everything we're doing here. And I've got a guide here on how to fix the inaccessible and unresponsive typography for my listing, but we're gonna fix that here together, okay? So like I said, the only thing I touch in the typography area is the body size and the link color. So let's first adjust the body size. So here we are in this. And if you don't do this, right off the bat, by default in my listing website that's configured from scratch, and even the demos are inaccessible. I don't want, like, just think about, Google it. Inaccessible sites, subject to fines, things like that. I've said it many times in many videos. It's a possibility. Is it highly likely? No, but it's a possibility. And you should just, aside from just the lawsuit potential, just do it for people to use your site better, right? It's just a good thing to do for people who have disabilities. Okay. All right. So to fix this, it's really, really simple. We just go here to body and typography, and we want to set the font size, change it from pixels to rem. We want to set this to 1. Okay. So what this is going to do is it's going to basically sync up Elementor to my listing, and because my listing leans heavily on Elementor for stuff, for typography especially. And we're just saying, just with that simple change, we're syncing the two up and saying 16 pixels, 1 rem, they're the same thing. Let's do that. All right. So we've now that simply fixed the inaccessibility issue with my listing. I've had a ticket open with my listing support for a long time. If you want to do a search for it, and maybe the only way we get movement on it is to chime in. I don't know why they don't see the importance. They don't care. I have no idea. Maybe it's a super difficult problem. It shouldn't be to fix. Like, it should be pretty quick, I would think. All right. And the only other thing is, which we did the other day when we did in the previous lesson, was set the link color here. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and update my changes here. Like I said, when you're working with Elementor, I recommend saving your changes constantly. Just do it. Trust me. For lots of reasons, just do it. Okay, so we fixed that issue. We're going to go back here, and we're going to get into the actual global fonts now. Let me go back to our task card and see if there's anything I missed. Nope, we're good there. All right, so we're good with typography. We're now into the global fonts settings. Now, there is something I want to mention here. I am working on something. I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. It has to do with fluid typography, right? So depending on the theme, the page builder, all of that stuff that you're working with, you want to set up fluid typography. So you set it once. There's a calculation that happens. between all of your heading tags, H1 through H6, and then your body and maybe a couple other things. And you just set it once in your CSS and you're done, and everything's just going to be fluid. So no matter how small or how big the viewport is on the browser when viewing your MyListing website, everything's going to just scale automatically. So then you don't need to go down here, which we're about to do, through all of the different font style sizes and everything to adjust for desktop, laptop, tablet, phone, and all of that. It just happens, as the name suggests, fluidly. It just happens. So I'm working on trying to adopt how other people have done it with other themes and page builders to bring it into MyListing. I started tinkering with it yesterday, so we'll see what happens there. But it's a lot of trial and error to make sure everything looks good. But basically what I'm trying to do is recreate the look and feel of the canvas's typography with just a one-time set it and forget it piece of CSS and call it a day. And you don't need to go through all of these individual things if you don't want to, which we're about to do here. And the reason why we want to try to avoid this long term, if we can figure out how to do it, is you got to go through all of the screens and you got to test all of the different font sizes. Like I said, with the different screen sizes, and it gets to be a bit of a pain. And with MyListing, there's just certain elements, whether it's like listing feeds, carousels, preview cards, all of those things MyListing doesn't give you the tools that make it easy to adjust the font sizes and stuff with accessibility and responsiveness in mind, which we'll get into as this course progresses. Okay, you'll see that firsthand, but we can fix it. Put a Band-Aid on it, I should say. Okay, that's my long-winded way of saying that we got some work to do. So let's go. I'm going to go to global fonts on the actual Canvas site. I've got that pulled up, and we will get to this here. Okay, so the first one I set here was I changed primary to be. I just renamed it, so you can double click on the name of the font here. I just called this XSL for double extra large. Okay, and then I went in here and I configured by default. If you didn't already know, MyListing will default to Roboto because it pulls from Elementor. So if you have GDPR concerns, just make sure you're loading your Google fonts locally, which will also help for performance. Because out of the box, Google does not have privacy-focused fonts, and Roboto is a Google font. All right, so I'm just going to change this to default, and the reason why is we're going to put in we're replicating in the Canvas starter site, so we're going to put in system fonts. Right? So we're declaring no font family. All right. Next up is we're going to change pixels to rem. We're going to drop in the value that I use, and again, how do I get that? See that value? 3.815. Let's go back to type scale. And we see here, because I'm using major third, what is the highest font size over here? 3.815 rem. That's where I got that from. Okay. So then I come back here and I used a 700 bold on that. And I did a line height of EM 1.2. You can adjust this to your liking, but the goal here, the main goal here is just to make sure you test everything, make sure everything looks good. You can adjust it to your liking. This is just what I've done for Canvas so far. And I may find, as the months, years, whatever go by, I adjust this as different elements and components come into play, but this is what we have now. All right. So this next part is what I mean by the tedious part. So yeah, that looks good on desktop, right? But how does it look on mobile? So if you start going through here, let me see where I set this next. Yeah, I adjusted on mobile. So I didn't adjust it on tablet. I've only got this starter site only has 3 breakpoints. I find these days that if you do things right, you only really need 3 breakpoints. You need the desktop breakpoint, the tablet, and the phone. Okay. So nothing to configure on the tablet side. It still looks good. But on mobile, we need to drop this down a bit. It's a little too big. So we're going to go from pixels again to rem. And I'm going to set the size to be 2.5 rem. And that's it. That's all we're going to change. And you can see over here, because we have this Elementor style guide preview enabled, you can see those changes take place here on the site. Actually, I may have set that at the wrong place. Let's go back here. Yeah, I did. All right, my bad. I was wondering why that wasn't showing the right way. Let's put that back. Let's go to mobile. There we go. You can do this over here on the side panel too, which is easier. So I'm going to, again, switch this to rem. I'm going to paste this in, and you'll see over here. See how big this is? Now you'll see on mobile, we want to knock that down. So when I paste this in, see how that drops down? And you just got to decide if that looks good for you. That's the way you want it. And you can create as many global fonts as you want. As you go through here, name them whatever you want, create them whatever you want. Just try to like err on the side of being minimal. Don't go super crazy, because that's just more and more that you have to manage. Okay, so we got that one done, and we'll go ahead and configure the next one. And then I'm going to fly through some of the others just so we can get through this. Next up, I called secondary. I called it extra large. And on desktop, I really think you got to be careful of. I just about did it again. You got to be really careful to switch in and out of the breakpoints, so you're not setting the wrong font size for the wrong device. Okay, I like to just personally start at desktop and work my way down. Again, we don't want to use that font there. We want to use just default to reset it so our system fonts take hold. And for this one, we are using rem and 3052. Let's go back to type scale. What's the next one down? 3052. And I'm going to set this one also to 700 bold. And I'm also going to do a line height of M 1.2. And let's see if I changed anything on the phone. Okay, yes, I did. So I'm going to switch over to the phone, mobile portrait mode. I'm going to switch to rem, and I'm going to change this to 2.25. All right. And that's all we did there. So those are set. And then next up for the body, what I think I'm going to do here is I'm going to just do these top four. And then when I get done with this video, this lesson, I'll go and I will set all these up so it's available for our next video. There's no reason for me to keep you on here as I set all of these, but we'll do these top four. So this one, let's go back here. Let me rename this. I just call this body. You can keep it text if you want. And I set, remember, this is the other part of the other key part here. So this is the body text, right? This is where that connection between MyListing and Elementor, it's part of that. So we set this to 1 rem. Okay. So now our body text is going to be 1 rem. And we set this to, I think I set this to just default weight, the default weight right there. So 1 rem, default weight. Let me see what it should be, right? Because we want the body size to be no less than 16, which that's what we've just set it at. So if I'm right, if I look on look over on Canvas, that body font size should never change. And it doesn't. Okay, cool. So that's it. We are done with that one. Last up here is the accent, and I just left that as accent, and I changed it to default, and I changed the rem value to 0.7. Okay, so this is going to create a small font size. So this is an inaccessible font size. So you want to use this very sparingly. It is an accent. Use it super sparingly. All right. And what else did I do? I did a default, and I did uppercase here. So that looks like I've matched the Canvas starter site. Check everything else. Everything else is the same. All right. So that is it for the top 4. Let me go ahead and save the changes here. After this video, I will go and I will create the others. So just to recap, like to tell you what I'm going to do, I have an extra large font, which is just, it's bigger than this value right here that we see. It's just for anything we want to make it like a really big text. I've got a large, which, would then sit below this extra large size, a medium, a small, bold, extra small, bold, extra small, extra small, bold, extra small, extra small, and then normal, which is just specifically setting the normal font weight, and then even a smaller one, and then I've got a buttons fonts, specifically fonts set up for the buttons, and the last one is a region page title, which was specific there. Now, as an example, for like the region page title, so let's see here. Let me pull that up here on my other screen, show you what I'm talking about here. One second, let me get to a region page. All right, so here's a region page. This right here is a font size that is specific to the region pages. Now, you could get away with assigning this to one of the others that I use. It's totally up to you. So maybe this is the XL, maybe this is the XXL, whatever. It's totally up to you how you want to do this. Like I said, you can create as many global fonts as you want. I would just try to keep it as a minimum. Maybe over time I remove this, particular global font, and I just set it to something else I already have, and just remove that global font altogether. Super easy to do. It'd take a few seconds to do that. There's just one more. I think I'll help you. We'll walk through together here. We'll do the buttons. All right, because this will show you how to add a style, an extra style. So we're done with the top four here. So we add another style by clicking this Add Style button, and that drops us down into this custom fonts area. I'm just going to call this buttons, and we're going to click the pencil to edit our font. You see how this one defaults to the default font family? That's because Elementor is not influencing our default fonts now, but out of the box, it does with that Roboto and some others too, but you see what I mean. Okay, so buttons, let's do that real quick. And let me get over here, and I did a font size for this. Let's do rem 0.9. I'm doing a bold on that, and I'm doing an uppercase. And let me see if I did anything else here special. I'm guessing I did not. Yeah, that's true. All right, so that's good. So now we have our buttons defined. I'm going to save my changes. Okay, I'll get those other fonts set up after this video. I want to move on now to this, the system fonts, right? How to get that into place. So for that, we jump back over into our dashboard, and we go into WP Codebox. If you're not familiar, WP Codebox is how I add all of my code snippets to all of my sites, all my client sites. Totally recommend it. Best code editor out there. Code snippets plugin out there. I don't even hesitate to say that. Okay, so we need to add a bit of code here to enable system fonts. So I'm just grabbing that from my other screen. Because our fonts are global, meaning they are going to apply to all areas of our website, we need to add them to our global code snippet. All right. So I'm going to punch these in here. So I'm copying these, and I'm going to place these into our CSS light mode, global light mode CSS package here. I'm going to drop down a couple lines, paste that in. Okay, another really cool feature, I'm going to save this first actually. Another really cool feature of WP Codebox is they help you format the text on the fly. So you click this format button right here, and it's going to pretty up everything for us. All right, so I'm going to save this. And because at this stage of the game, our CSS for light mode and dark mode is identical, they will diverge here at some point. But for now, they're the same. So I'm just going to do, I'm just going to copy all of this. I'm going to go into the dark mode, and we're just going to replace all of this. There we go, and save this. We're not going to enable it because we're not doing dark mode by default. I just want to keep I'm just wanting to show you exactly how this site was built. All right, so there we go. That is set up. Now the next thing we want to fix is MyListing, the other piece of the MyListing's inaccessibility body font size. All right, so for that, we come down here, let me grab it. And I'm going to paste that, go down a couple lines. I'm going to paste that in and save. And then I'm going to go do the same on the default CSS package, which is the global light mode. And I'm going to explain this. Okay, so I've commented this out and to say, fix MyListing's inaccessible and unresponsive typography. And then there's a link to the guide right here, okay, if you want to check that out. So what we're saying here is that in our HTML, we need to set a base font size of 16 pixels and set it as important. So it does the override, all right? So I've tested this thoroughly. This is what is needed to make this work, to talk to Elementor, and long story short, to produce a 16 pixel or better put, a 1 rem value on our body size. Okay, that is our default. This HTML declaration here means that browsers by default, all browsers across the web default to an HTML root size of 16 pixels. So why it is that MyListing chose to not follow that standard is just something that I still don't understand. I'm hoping they will fix it, but that's what this code right here is doing. Okay, so next up here, and we're nearing the end of this. I just want to point out some other typography options that, in my opinion, you should avoid. Okay, so under theme tools and theme options, you'll see this typography thing here. Back in the day, WordPress placed a huge emphasis on the customizer. A lot of themes worked into the customizer, following WordPress's guidance on, hey, the customizer is the future. That's where we're doing things. This was before the new block editor Gutenberg, came about. Do everything the customizer. So I don't blame MyListing for doing this and putting the typography settings for some of the aspects of the site into the customizer because they were following what WordPress said to do. In my opinion, this needs to be rewritten. So in my opinion, this should link somewhere else. It should be done somewhere else, maybe in here somewhere. I don't know, but it needs to be rewritten, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, so it tells you to go to Appearance, Customize Typography. They could have even been nicer to us and just gave us a link to it. I don't know why they didn't do that. But anyway, Appearance, Customize, and Typography. All right, so here we go. So what is in here? So we can set the font size of some elements in our header. So here's the quick search placeholder. And some of this is valuable. If you're not good with CSS and you're not willing to download some CSS packages from the club, then this is really your only option, unfortunately. But you can see all the different elements here, and MyListing breaks it down into all the different places. The problem with this is, let's just look back here at the heading. I don't set anything in here. I don't touch this. Like, it's for the reasons I'm going to tell you right here. What is the value that it's giving us here? Pixels. That's it. You don't get rem. You should not be using pixels with your font sizes these days. If you're an inexperienced user, you're not comfortable with CSS, you're not willing to download CSS packages from the club, you don't have a developer that you're willing to hire, you're not willing to use tools like CSS Hero to do this stuff, or other CSS tools that allow you to change things from the front end. You're not willing to do all that stuff or able to do all that stuff, then yeah, you need to use this if you want to change some of these fonts, the typography. But it's just best if you avoid it if you can. So again, you just have pixels. You have no other option, just the old antiquated pixels, which you shouldn't be using anymore. All right, so you come in here. There should be a drop down here, in my opinion, where you can choose. It just leaves too much. And it should be a minimum, right? Like let's default to 16 pixels, or worst case like 14, and give us a drop down. So to protect the website owners from themselves, allowing a website owner to come in here and choose 1 pixel is just, it's irresponsible. It should not be a thing. It shouldn't be allowed. Anyway, so you can see there when I set a 1, you see right there. This is one of the cool features, though, I will admit, is that you can instantly see the changes that you're making. Okay, so and move this up or down. So I've got 1 in there. As I move this up and down, you can see that change. So that is a pretty cool thing. The same thing in WP Codebox. You can do the same thing. They have a live preview mode where you click this preview right here, and it's going to tell you the same thing. Click that, open it up. It's going to do the exact same thing for you if you know how to do CSS. Okay. All right, so we're back in here. You set your font size, and then your font weight, right? But that's it. There's no font family. There's no, it's just extremely, extremely limited in here in what you can do. All right. And not everything is viewable. Like WP Codebox, it doesn't matter where you're at, you can see the changes in real time. Whereas otherwise here, how would you see that your single listing paragraph size font here is taking hold? How would you know that? I guess you could browse to it. Let's see if I don't have a listing to do that with, or an Explorer page yet to show you. You'll have to let me know on that. I can't remember off the top of my head if that actually shows you a preview on those pages. Let's see, maybe under my account we can do that. Let's see here, dashboard menu. Let's see if we can pull that up yet. Okay, so there we go. So there's that. Let's see if we can now change this. Typography, user dashboard, dashboard menu. Let's change this to something wildly large and see if it works. Okay, that's cool. That actually works. I've actually never done that. That's not bad. All right, that's actually pretty cool. All right, I'll give them props on that. That's pretty neat. You can change the font weight. So I guess long story short here, this particular thing we're talking about now, this topic, these settings with typography that the MyListing guys provide, developers provide. If this is all you're comfortable with doing, that's fine. Do what you got to do in here. Just think about accessibility and things like that. Let's see what this is. Dashboard block title. So that would be, I'm guessing, these blocks right here. So views, unique views. Let's see. Yep, that's those. Okay, that's cool. Check the weight. Let's do like really, really bold. All right, that's cool. All right, so that is that. Again, hopefully this fluid typography thing might evolve into something. But as you're seeing here, it's difficult because there's just so many areas of a MyListing website that has unique typography. And this is evidence of it right here. This is proof of that. There's just so many individual things to set that's what makes it more challenging. All right. Okay, guys, let's see if there's anything else I need to cover there with the global fonts. Let me just read the narrative. I should have read that before. Global fonts allow you to define font styles that apply to Elementor text-based elements. Don't worry about perfecting these fonts immediately. What you set initially regarding font size, weight, and the font family will likely be adjusted as you build. That's what I said. I think Canvas looks great right now. I like the settings that are in place. Over time, it may evolve as different elements are added, new things are learned, just personal taste change, that sort of thing. Global fonts ensure consistent, fluid typography across Elementor-based content. Fluid meaning as fluid as it can be, right? So you set this value right here for this particular font size style, and it is fluid because we just manually set it that way. Okay, but it's not like an automatic fluid situation. We had to set that. Okay, not entirely, because it does look good, for example, on, let's say, like a tablet without us having to manually set that. So there is a bit of fluid typography going on there. What else? Any adjustments made to a global font automatically get applied to any element, heading, paragraph, etc., which is an excellent approach for website manageability. All right, so let me show you what I mean by that. So we're exiting the global settings here by clicking that X icon. If you didn't see that, I'm going to go back and do that. So this X icon right here exits us out of the site settings and gets us back to our editor. So if I drop in a heading here, we'll set this to H1 and go into the style tab here. And we see there's the typography that's set by default is that primary, which we renamed that to XXL. Okay, you can call it whatever you want. That's just what I called it. Call it whatever you want. But now, if I was to go in, because this is set as XXL, if I go into the site settings and I go to our global fonts and I go to that XXL font and I change this, whatever I set this at, anywhere that I've assigned that global font to is going to change all throughout the site. So I'm going to save this, copy that to my clipboard. Let's just put something crazy absurd in here, like we'll do like 40 rim. See how that changes? I'm going to update this. I'm going to go back to the editor and refresh the page. There we go. See that? So now every heading that I had that, or it could be text too, or like a text widget, text editor, anywhere that I assigned that XXL in a global font is just going to dynamically change everywhere. So that's a really, really cool, powerful feature. It's better than the alternative. Let me go back to the site settings. It's better than the alternative of coming in here. Okay, we're going to choose that as H1. Okay, we're going to come in here. The alternative is to choose this pencil icon instead of the global font icon or this little custom option right here. So you choose the pencil, and I see this all the time. Okay, a client adds the header to the page. They go into this pencil. They'll choose some random font family. Then they will drop down in here and they will set this to some random value. They'll come down here and then we'll change this to some random value. Let's just do medium. And then they'll do like, okay, italics. And then they'll may or may not adjust the line height, whatever. That gets kind of messed up. They mess with the letter spacing, the word spacing. Maybe they set color or whatever, but then it gets out of control because then they're not thinking about, okay, well, how does this look on a mobile device or smaller devices? All right. They'll come in here and they'll say, not think about the consequences. So we'll come in here. All right, we're going to set this to something crazy large. Like, oh, that looks great. And then they don't think, oh, I should probably go check mobile. And then let's just pretend this wasn't set here. That's what they're going to get on mobile. And I see this all the time. They don't know that this is happening in the background. Okay. And then another thing I see all the time is we'll come in here. Let's say let's duplicate this heading. All right, we're going to put our H2 in here. And then we're going to put it's not going to have the able font. It's going to have this ABZ font, and this one's going to be this size, and it's going to be this weight, and it's going to be oblique, it's going to be lowercase, and then they come in here and they add an H3, and then you see what I'm getting at here. It's just all over the board. Let's set this one to like extra light and uppercase. Let's do another third font here. Let's do this one. Okay. Let's change the line height to something and this to something. And then now you've got, just that quickly, you've got 3 different font families, 3 different weights. And then you just keep going on down, on and on and on down the page. And it's slowing down the site. It's a nightmare to manage. What if you later find out you've used this, whatever that font family name is, Anchor, whatever, and you've used that 1,000 times on your site and now you hate it. What are you going to do? You got to go through your entire site and you got to manually change all this. You cannot do that. It's just not going to work. And this is just one page. What if you do this over and over and over and over again? You got to get in here. You've got to get into the site settings. You've got to get into your global fonts, and you've got to try to set this stuff once and leave it and assign it accordingly. All right, guys, that's typography, and I hope you learned something in this video. And yeah, I will catch you in the next one. See ya.